A cat sighting in the video today. Hi everyone, once again, my hair and my face look like something. Like something. Not entirely sure when my face broke out last month, but yeah, here we are. Lucky for you guys, today you are getting a tutorial. Last video I mentioned that I hadn't lost a single one of my extensions. Well, I lost one. I had just finished washing my hair and I had my hair wrapped up for the night since I went to bed pretty late that evening. I think that was what, Wednesday or Tuesday, something like that. And yeah, I'd washed my hair when I got in a little bit late that evening, so I wrapped it up in a couple of layers so that it would not only just suck out the fabric, but it would keep me from getting sick from having my hair wet overnight. And the next morning my hair was mostly dry, but when I pulled off the scarf that I had on my hair, one of my locks came out with it, and I was checking myself out in the mirror, making sure that my hair looked all right for the morning, when I noticed that there was something on the floor to my right, and it was one of my lock extensions. Now, that isn't to say that I hadn't installed these things properly, because I believe that I had done sufficient interlocking to make sure that it didn't fall out, but what seemed to have happened was, and I'm gonna show you right now actually, gave myself a fresh retwist the other day. Look at that. You can see my scalp again, folks. Now let me get my mirror real quick so I can see what the heck I'm doing. Sorry if I'm not looking at you guys, but one of the lock extensions at the very front of all places came out. Let me see if I could find him. The lock that is the culprit to all of the shenanigans. Oh, there you are. Okay. So this was a lock that the extension came loose from, and I think I see what the problem is. All of this right here is practically unraveled, and it's probably because it was at the end of the lock. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the lock extension a little bit higher up this time so that it doesn't slide out. So let me get my needle and I'll be right back. So yeah, you guys are going to get to have the tutorial that you wanted to see, and thank goodness I kept this hair that I got when I first started doing my extensions. Now what I did with this, I didn't use the entire length of the hair per extension. What I did was I cut the whole bundle in half, because I think this length came folded in half already, so I cut it along the fold so that it was this long, and then I used each half section for my extensions. So what you will need to install your lock extensions, or at least the way I did it, is you will need a large tapestry needle. This is the one I've been using for all my retightens, so it's coming real handy. Some kind of small tooth comb. This is the one that I used to pick out my last set of locks, actually. And the hair of your choice. Now, I'm going to be looking in the mirror to make sure I'm not finagling my hair any more than it needs to be. Get this stuff out of the way. So here is my lock. I'm going to get all of the rest of this out of the way so I don't do anything crazy with that. And what you want to do is you want to take out a section of hair that's a little bit thinner from your bundle than your actual lock, because when you do all the back combing and stuff, it'll thicken up a bit. So for this one, I'm using about this much, because when you fold it over, it'll double to the thickness of your lock. So get half the thickness of the lock you want to extend. Okay, and what you're going to do is you're going to fold the hair in half like so, and then you're going to thread it through the eye of your needle like that. And then you will take this and you will look in your mirror, Melissa, and you will insert the needle into the lock, like that, and bring it through to the other side. And then this loop will be on the opposite side of your hair. So one side is the loose end and one side is this loop. What you're going to do is you're going to put your thumb through the loop and pull one end straight through your lock. But it doesn't have to be perfect. So now you have, see if I can get a better look. You have the hair going through your lock. So you have one end and the other end over here. Now what you do is you bring those together and you make them somewhat even. And then you're going to start by taking the hair onto your needle again. You're going to thread the very end of the extension this time. And this is kind of what I did to just catch the loose hairs that are in the lock and make it secure. Clearly I didn't go down far enough, and you're basically going to interlock the ends of the hair through the ends of the pre-existing lock that's left loose here. And what this is supposed to do, in theory, I'm not a professional, this is just kind of what I was thinking, is that when you thread these through, it will give it the same kind of braided texture as the rest of your lock, if you've interlocked, like I have, and kind of bring everything together so that it doesn't, supposedly, slip off. But clearly this lock wasn't really on my run at all. And you're just going to do that a couple of times until you don't have any straggly loose bits. Normally maybe 3 to 4 times or something like that. At some points you're going to have to kind of work it a little bit, but so yeah, so that's what it's looking like now that I've done the interlocking for this section. You can still see a little tufty bit of the end of my lock, so let me see if I can catch that with one more interlock on that end. Okay, so far so good. There's a little bit of a bump and a transition between my actual hair and the lock extension, but since I have so much hair you don't really notice it when it's all together, so I don't really mind. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your comb and you're going to start back combing. And of course there are a bunch of tutorials on the internet on how to properly back comb. I'm definitely not an expert, so I'd advise looking up one of those tutorials because I'm not entirely 100% sure how to explain. But basically it's just roughing up the hair and giving it some texture, and I find that not doing this does not give the extension the same texture as the rest of my locks. So now that I back combed a bit, I've threaded my hair onto my needle again, and I'm going to start interlocking from the point where I had last stopped straight down. So this kind of gives the rest of my lock extension the same kind of interlocked texture as the rest of my extensions and my locks that already exist. Make sure not to get the tail end of the hair caught back into the rest of the lock, because then it'll get stuck and then you won't really be able to do anything. So you're just going to do that over and over and over again. Until you reach to the end. And of course, if it looks a little bit straggly, you can always take the hairs and wrap them around the length of the lock just to neaten it up a little bit. I'm not really interested in trimming all the little scraggly bits off because, you know, then I'll be cutting into the hair of the lock itself, and that's not what I want. So It's not quite as I was interlocking everything, it gotten a little bit loose, so I'm going to just back comb the ends a little bit again. And then I'm going to continue with my interlocking with my needle. And if you're not clumsy like me, your hair will stay in the needle as you interlock. You know, the funny thing was, I could have sworn that the lock that fell out was one of the ones that were in a back rows, because I think 3 or 4 of them I had done using a different technique where I pre-made the locks and then I crocheted them on, and I wasn't quite as confident about those ones, so when it fell out, I could have sworn it was one of the back ones, but surprise, surprise, it was one of the ones in the front. And I think it's just because the hair in the front of my hair is a lot softer and more loose than the hair at the back of my head. And okay, now when you get to the end, what I've been doing, I didn't want to burn the extension or anything like that, so what I do is I take my needle and I feed it back through the bottom of my lock like this. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, you can see that. So I'm just threading the needle all the way up like that. And then what you do is you grab the end of your needle, making sure that your hair is still in the eye of the needle, and you pull this through the bottom of your lock extension and hold the end. And what that does is when you pull the needle all the way through, since you're holding the end, there's only so far the hair can be pulled back into the lock extension. So now you have a nice, neat, blunt tip. And then do some more wrapping of the loose hairs just to make things a little bit more neat. And yeah, that is it. That is how I installed all of these extensions. And yeah, I didn't have to use a whole lot of hair. I basically used a pack and a half of this Afro Kinky braid. One was a slightly different brand. It was like the realistic human synthetic hair. I know that's an oxymoron in and of itself, but the other one had a very different texture. It was a little bit softer. But it didn't tangle as easily as this stuff that isn't the realistic version of the synthetic hair. So personally, I would much prefer the realistic Kanekalon hair or realistic Marley braid hair because it just seems a lot more soft. Oh, right, and the color I used for my hair was a number 4. Since the ends of my hair aren't really black, they're more of a brown kind of color. So yeah, that's how I installed my extensions. Today's video was a really short one. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to leave comments down below. I'm trying to figure out how to style my hair, so probably you guys will see some kind of attempts on me doing that. And in a little while, I have an announcement to deal with my hair that not a lot of people know about, so stay tuned for that. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!